Welcome to another instructional video for seated belly dance. Today we're going to be building on what we learned last week with the hand movements, and we're going to add in our rib cage movements. So today's lesson is going to be beginning rib cage movements. If you haven't seen the video on beginning arms, it will be linked down in the description. You don't have to watch that video. You can follow along with us and do the rib cage movements, but if you'd like, it will be in the description so that you'll know what hand movements we're doing. Now, before we start, as with any physical activity, make sure that you have checked with a medical professional to make sure that this activity is right for you and your body. Everybody's body is different. Please listen to your body as we're going through this exercising and dancing. And if anything feels uncomfortable, feel free to modify it however works for your body. A big part of belly dance is improvisation. So it's perfectly okay to take a movement and make it your own based on what feels good for your body. Now, one of the things I do want to point out for absolute certain is that this is not just exercise. This is dancing. While you are doing this, you are a dancer. There are a lot of videos on YouTube for seated exercise, and I highly recommend you check them out. There's seated yoga, seated tai chi, there are other seated dance lessons, and they are all wonderful, and I have found a lot of benefit from them. But a lot of times the emphasis is on this is exercise. This is not just exercise. This is fun. This is dance. Any body part that you can move, that feels good to you to move, you are dancing. Doesn't matter which body parts you can't use. We're going to focus on the body parts that you can use and making that feel joyous for you to move in your body. Now we're going to get started, but before I do want to thank two wonderful musical groups, Omnia and Emian, who are being gracious enough to let us use their music for this. The music that we're going to be using today is from them. There are 3 songs by Omnia and 1 by Emian. We'll be starting with Grona Lunda by Omnia, Dans Batuz by Emian, and then the last 2 are also by Omnia, God's Love and Alive. These songs and their channels will be linked below in the description. Please support them by giving those a look. They're being very gracious in letting us use their music. Now, let's get started with our warm-up. Okay, we're going to be working the middle a lot today, and we're also going to be using our shoulders a lot. So we're going to start by kind of loosening up the neck and shoulder area. So drop your head forward. It doesn't have to be very far. Then back. Then to one side and the other side. And again, it doesn't have to be very far, only as far as it's comfortable. Now we're going to move the neck in a circle. Now the other direction. Okay, now we're going to loosen up our shoulders. We're going to roll our shoulders back. And we're going to roll our shoulders forward. We're actually going to be using the shoulders a lot, even though it's rib cage movements. A lot of those movements are done with the shoulders. Okay, now this next one, we're going to kind of stretch the muscles along here. So what you're going to do is put one hand off to this hand off to your side. The other hand you're going to cross, turn, and look over your shoulder. Now, if this is at all uncomfortable for you, just keep this hand at your side and this hand right here on your lap, and just look over your shoulder as far as is comfortable. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So you put this hand behind you, this one, going to reach over, and then look over this shoulder. And again, if this is uncomfortable, keep this hand to the side, this hand here, and just look over your shoulder as much as is comfortable for you to do. Okay, let's do one more on the other side. And one more on this side. Now this next one, first of all, make sure your brakes are on. I should have done that to begin with. Make sure your brakes are on and you're sitting stable. And then just lean forward as far as is comfortable. It doesn't have to be very far. You're just sort of stretching the muscles in your back just a little bit to loosen them up. Then roll back up. And let's do one more head roll, just to loosen those muscles up in the other direction. And shake your arms out. Okay. Now today what we're going to be doing are rib cage isolation movements. Between the hand movements and the rib cage movements, that is a large part of the dance. Okay, now we're going to first start with emotion in the shoulder, just forward and back, forward and back. And you can see as you're doing this that you're moving your shoulders, but your rib cage is also turning. I'm going to do this. Now we can speed it up a little bit if it's comfortable. Okay. Now, this is going to sound like it's complicated, and it's not. This is a figure 8 with your rib cage, but it's actually more of a figure 8 with the shoulders. So you're going to roll one shoulder forward and then the other shoulder forward. And if you notice, as your shoulders are moving, your rib cage is moving. Now you're going to focus on the bottom of your rib cage and trying to make that motion more pronounced. And again, just as in the first lesson, we want to keep our arms kind of soft, like we're holding a big beach ball, soft and relaxed. Okay, so shoulders forward, alternating shoulders, focusing on the bottom of the rib cage. Very good. Okay, the next one is, this will eventually become a motion in the belly roll, which will be a later episode. You're going to, just like in the first lesson where we imagined a string on our wrist for the arm motion, we're going to imagine that string right here in the middle of our chest, lifting up the chest and dropping it back down. You turn to the side so you can see a little more. You're just lifting it and dropping it. Lifting and dropping. Lifting and dropping. There you go. So lift and drop. Lift and drop. And we're going to get real fancy with this, and we're going to combine that shoulder alternating forward and back with the lift. So you're going to turn and lift and drop. Turn and lift and drop. And back to the center, lift and drop. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do one to the center and then one to each side. And then back to the center and then back to the side. And if this is getting uncomfortable, you can rest, kind of stretch forward a little bit, stretch your back out if it's starting to get a little uncomfortable, or stretch a little bit back, whatever is going to help those muscles. Okay, now the last one we're going to learn today before we put them together and dance with them is rib cage side to side motion. Now, you're going to find the bottom of your rib cage and imagine that string, one tied to each end. And you're going to slide your rib cage over and then over the other direction. This is actually a little easier to do seated than standing because you don't have to worry about making sure the bottom part of you doesn't go anywhere. You're going to slide it over to the center, over to the center. And it doesn't have to be a big motion. You can see I can't make a very big motion with this. If you can handle more, that's great. If you can only handle a little bit, that's perfectly wonderful. My back was broken in 3 places at one point in time, so this motion is one that I can't do like a really exaggerated motion to, and that's perfectly okay. Okay, now let's go through those one more time. Shoulders back and forth. Roll the shoulders back and forth for the figure 8. Okay. Rib cage up in the middle, up to each side, up to the other side, and then the rib cage side to side, side, middle, side, middle. Now, if you remember in the last lesson on the arms, we talked about a taksim at the beginning of the song. That's what you were just listening to, that slow, soft, melodic, instrumental, or with voices. Okay, now we're going to put these together and we're going to dance to them. Okay, so shoulders back and forth. Now the circles make our figure 8 with the rib cage. Add the hand movements in from last time if you feel comfortable doing that. Okay, now up and down, up to the side, to the center, side, center, and then side to side. And if you need to go slower, that's fine. You can slow it down. Figure 8. Up, side, center, up, center, and side to side. You can add a little bit of bounce on the side to side if you feel comfortable doing that. Or you can just slide across. Up, side, center, side, center, side, other side. You can speed it up, slow it down. Same thing with the figure 8. You can speed it up for an accent, slow it down. Same thing for the rib cage lift. You can go slow or speed it up. Whatever feels good for your body to do. Side to side. Okay, now let's take some of our hand motions that we learned last time. Kind of incorporate those forward and back. Nice hand circles. Figure 8. Okay. Now we're going to stop dancing there for today. I want to keep the active part of the videos to somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. Everybody's body is a little bit different, and when you're first starting out especially, I think it's really good not to stress your body out. Now this last song that I put on will also be in the link in the description, and I mainly have this one on because I found it very inspirational, and I want to leave you with some of the words from this particular song. This is Alive by Omnia. Can you touch the roots that feed us? Can you hear the words that I say? Can you feel the music move you? Can you feel alive today? So let the music of the world move you. Feel the air on your skin and the sun on your hair, and let your body feel alive in the world. And until next time, keep dancing.